Hi, I'm Alan, and this is Prayers to the Dice Gods. And today we are going to look at painting some Dark Angels. The Dark Angels are one of my favourite Space Marine chapters. Now, one of the things I like most about them is the fact that I can play them either as a Loyalist chapter or as a Chaos chapter. And for those of you that know that I am all about the Chaos Gods. When it comes to Dark Angels, you have a few choices as to how you want to start. Games Workshop do a pretty good Caliban spray. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Caliban green. I find it just that little bit too dark, especially when I want to shade in a particular way. So I've actually started with Army Painter Angel Green. War Flesh is another good one you can start with. They're fairly similar. Army Painter paints tend to get a bad rap just because they don't cover in quite the same way as a lot of the other paints until you learn how to use them properly. Now, I have half an Army Painter set. I don't have a problem with them once I figured that they go really well if you use them in conjunction with other paints. Now, they're not the best for base coating, but when you do what I've done here and put down some Vallejo model colour US dark green and then apply the angel green over the top, you get a really nice solid smooth base coat. So the first paint that I'm applying on the model after I've got my base coat on is a Baden Black. Now I like a Baden Black, particularly on Space Marines for this bit, because when I over thin it, it runs into the recesses perfectly, so it makes doing the pieces in between the armour a lot easier. Next up, I'm going over the green with Nuln Oil to darken it up and also recess shade it. One of the things that I'm doing there is I'm trying to draw that Nuln Oil down so that the shading tends to hit more towards the bottom of each of the sections. So I'm going piece by piece and applying it as deliberately as I can. And once that Nuln Oil is eventually dry, this is one of these few occasions where I really wish I owned a hairdryer to speed that up. It took a fair while, but it was worth the wait. So what I'm doing now is I'm giving it a light dry brush of Angel Green just to kind of bring back some of the flatter panels and some of the edges back towards the original base colour. The next thing we want to do is start filling in the bits that we want to be silver. This is just a bit of lead belcher, so we're adding that in, picking out all of the details on the gun. Now we're cracking out the Rhinox hide to fill in the pouches on the belt. Now, my favourite bit about Dark Angels is they still have the old 90s red bolters that were on every single one of the box art for Space Marines, no matter what chapter they were. I think this looks really good. It's a nice contrast against the green. Now next up we're going to put a black wash over all of the silver bits and the red to give it a nice kind of dirty shading. So now we're going to start with the edge highlighting. We're using Warboss Green to start with. We're going to go around the entire model with this. Now you will find that this is one of the dullest things you can do when painting a model. Now the reason we're doing it this way is because this is one of the most beginner friendly ways of doing it, and this is the reason GW do their box art the way they do. You kind of get a little bit conned in the fact that you think that they've just edge highlighted the entire model, where they haven't. They've done far better painting, you just don't realise it because your eye is automatically drawn to those edge highlights. To make your edge highlighting easier, what you want to be doing is using kind of the edge of the tip of the brush and using that to go around the lines where you can. Where you can't, you're going to be using the tip. So it's all about your brush control at this point. One of those things that I really do love about edge highlighting though is you really do get that really quick feeling of achieving something whilst you're painting, because once those edge highlights start to go on, the model starts to look a lot better than it did when you started. Now, I don't know what it is about this next colour. A moot green, I just seem to find is one of the only greens I really, really enjoy. I love the way it goes on the models. I love the way it looks, and I particularly love it using it as an edge highlight. Now, you'll notice on this bit, we're not doing the entire model for this second round of edge highlighting. What we want to do is make it look like there's light hitting in particular spots. So we're literally just doing any upward facing angle. Now, I love how the model's looking already. We've got the edge highlights just on the green armour so far, but you'll notice that it's gone from looking kind of bland and kind of flat to something that's looking a little bit more exciting, a little bit shinier, a little bit more like, yeah, I like the way that looks. When I put them as a big group, they're going to look fantastic when I dump them on the table, and that's the thing you have to remember. When you put all of these models together as one squad, really makes them start to look good without having to use any of the advanced techniques. We're highlighting the silver next. First we're going to go over with lead belcher, and again we're just looking to kind of pick out the angles that are at the top, so just moving along down the sight. We're then going to go over the top with some Mornfang steel just to make it pop a little bit. So now we're on to edge highlighting the pouches on the belt, which we've started off with Mornfang Brown as the first highlight, just along the edges, and with the sort of circular containers we've just done it down the side of it and a little bit along the top. This picks out some nice details. We're then going to go around again with XV88 to finish those highlights off and make sure that those little lines that we've added to some of the pouches just look a little bit more like worn leather. Now, the first thing we're going to do with the gun is kind of go back over the top with the Mephiston red that we put on. Now, we're not going to just do the whole thing. What we're looking to do is just go over the flat panels and avoid the nice shading we got from adding the Nuln oil. We're then going to do the highlights along the edges with Evil Sun Scarlet to start with. Then our second highlight over the top of that, just trying to pick out the bits that are really upward facing so there's more light hitting them, is Wild Rider Red. To highlight the gold, all we're doing is mixing a little bit of Mornfang silver into our Retributor armour to get it progressively lighter. We do this a couple of times just to give those edges a nice little bit of shine. So one of these last few stages is trying to put a couple of white dots onto the eye lenses just to make it look a little bit like there's light reflecting off of them. And finally, just because this is going to be added to our Space Marine chapters on the poster behind me, the base is just going to be painted a plain black because this is all going to go into a display case. So hopefully towards the end of this year, that all 100 chapters will be completed. So our Dark Angel's finished. He's ready to go. He's ready to be used. You can either put him on the tabletop, or as I'm going to do, I'm going to put him into the display cabinet with the other 100 chapters that we're working on. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon so that you get all of the notifications as and when the new videos are released. The Dice Gods favour the painted army,